Good evening and welcome to Free to Heal, where we discuss with formerly incarcerated and loved ones the things that they were free from. They're free from prison, they're free from a lot of hurt and pain to be able to heal so that we can move on. We try to concentrate very heavily on how do you successfully integrate. We have a great person to speak to tonight, Mr. Bernard K. Cooper, who is going to talk to us about his fabulous book, The Longest Wait. And we also have some folks here with us, and I'd like to give them an opportunity to check in for me. Sir, would you like to check in?
Can you see my tongue?
No.
Okay.
So,
yeah, hi.
Sir, check in for me.
I check in.
You check. Ma'am.
I'm very pleased and happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. And would you check in?
I'm awesome to be here, man. Thank you.
And I'm excited. I'm excited because we get to have a conversation. Those of you that are watching, I'll ask you now, please, if you have a topic that you would like for us to cover to make sure that this channel serves you, please, by all means, leave a comment, or you should see our email address as well. Email us and we will definitely try to handle those topics. So I'm excited tonight. So I would like Mr. Cooper to talk to us about this book, but I'd like for him to start with, how did he become gang involved as a youth?
Well, my gang involvement started pretty early, maybe 12, 13 years old, which I didn't have to. You know, in my opinion, I didn't have to gangbang, you know, but because I had a good mom, you know, my dad was there for me. But I think my extended family and having brothers that was involved in it and just seeing what you're seeing, I experienced a family member, extended family member, man, that was kidnapped, raped, beaten, and you know, stabbed with a throat slit and left on, you know, the rival community's football field. Miraculously, she survived due to the janitor finding her. But what I remember is her coming home to and seeing the scars or the patches and stuff like that, and continuing to grow up. This was in the 70s when war between the communities first broke out. So I was just maybe 8 years old, so I really couldn't understand exactly what was going on, and but I just remember her because she was so sweet and everything, and she always gave me candy and stuff like that. So and she was just always a big sister to me. So, but I always seen the scars, always seen the pain, the drug use and stuff from her running from that. And by the time I got 13, I entered junior high school, which was located on the borderline between these two communities, which was known to be a breeding ground, so to speak, for both communities. So it was very intense junior high school, which I was scared to death, of course, but it was coming home from that, being chased home from school and stuff like that, and trying to understand why did they have so much intensity towards me just from living on this side of the residence. So my sister sort of trying to explain it to me inadvertently shared what went on with her and why it was. So it was pretty much after that point right there that I began my gang life.
And one of the things that you said that really stuck out to me that's important for people to understand is that there was a trauma that actually led you to incarceration, into gang life. There was a trauma in your family with your extended family member that said to you, okay, I need to protect myself. I need to help protect the people in my family. I need to protect myself, as well as you experiencing being chased home and having to fight people in the neighborhood. And I was it tickled me when you, because I haven't gotten that far in the book, but because I just got it, and thank you for the autographed copy. But I was tickled because you talked about being so excited to be dressed up like that. And this was before you actually got in the gang.
Yeah.
So there was an excitement to be dressed like them because you lived in the neighborhood. And that ultimately led to you having no choice, really, at that point.
Right, because you see your big brothers are this, you know, you see the camaraderie, the love, the brotherhood. I remember as a kid back then, you know, peeking through the brick walls and looking at, you know, because my older brother was involved and you know, and so I used to play toys with him and everything, trying to mimic what I saw.
Right.
And plus I played baseball at St. Andrews Park, you know, and they was I always seen them there, you know, and they just seemed together. And plus my mom, you know, she did the lunches and stuff there, you know, so she always had me there involved in the sports. But I always seen, you know, this cool pack, you know, of people that just was always together and just seemed to have, you know, to have that brotherhood. And I, you know,
You wanted that.
and I wanted that.
Yeah. You wanted to ask a question.
I want a truthful answer.
Sure.
When you was inside, the guys that you called brother, did they send you money or anything?
Well,
No, I'm just saying. Did they?
yes. Well, fortunately and unfortunately, me, it was vice versa for me. It was they were the ones that was there for me. My family is the one that left me. I never heard from my brothers and sisters ever in 25 years because my mother had a stroke after my conviction. So the only people that I had was my gang. The only people that ever sent me packages and ever loved on me from there. Although I can count on one hand, don't get me wrong, not the whole, but I can count on one hand the people that kept me down all those years, and it wasn't my family.
Now, the interesting thing, and I understand why you asked the question, because it's very important to understand, typically, the gang does not support. The gang doesn't put money on your books, they don't send packages, they don't write letters, they don't send birthday cards, and they don't do visits.
Right.
Till you come out and then they want to throw you a party.
And then you become a hero. And the worst thing in the world that I learned is that when people come home, particularly if they've spent a lot of time incarcerated, all of the screaming and yelling, "Oh my God, it's so good to see you!" and all the touching is the worst thing in the world. They do not want that. So for all of you at home, when your loved ones come home, do not, I repeat, do not throw the welcome home barbecue party. That is not what most people want. They don't want, and I've never talked to anybody who wanted all of that hullabaloo when they got home. It's not that some time later they may not want to see people, but that immediately, because there is a physical way of living in prison that's isolated, that is not all of that touching and all of that loud talking and all of those things.
When I started to go to church, and the church is okay, you know, because it's a big open space. But then they after that they had like, I guess like Sunday school, and they had them in smaller rooms. I couldn't go in there.
Because it's too confined.
You couldn't. You know what
Well,
I'm saying.
I've been to church a couple of times in prison, but I always told myself that I needed to make it home the same way I went in.
Yeah, but I'm saying this was out
so
here.
It wasn't, you know, it was my own faith
Yeah.
that I had that carried me through. Like I prayed day in and day out, you know.
Well, trust me, I wouldn't know on the yard preacher.
But he was talking about when he came home, the whole contact with people, being in a small room afterward. But you had a question
I
also.
couldn't be in a close compound.
I
You know,
just
still
wanted to
can't.
say, like, you know, when it comes to the packages and stuff like that, the first 2 times my brother went to prison, everybody in the family, you know, we all took turns to send money and send things. The 3rd time he went, I made sure nobody sent him anything.
Right.
Because I was tired of him hurting my mom, hurting my dad. I was to the point where it didn't really hurt me anymore. I just missed my brother.
Right.
But at anybody that I even heard was trying to send him anything, I was up at the front door.
And I would say this,
Because I wanted him to learn,
and I would say this,
feel the loss.
I would say it this way, based on the conversation we've had multiple times, as well as other people that I've had a conversation with. It's really that first time that you should have done it. That you should have allowed him to suffer the consequences and let it not be so good. Because when you said to me before that if they had gotten you out of jail,
Out of juvenile
hall before you had that first fight,
Yeah.
right, then you would have been afraid and you would have moved. You may not have gone back.
I just think the first time we didn't know any better.
And you
We
didn't.
just wanted to-
As family members, we don't know any better. As loved ones, because I've never been incarcerated, but I'm a loved one of somebody who was incarcerated. And as family members, this is again one of the reasons why we're doing this series. And why we're talking to people, because that first time, you don't want them to become comfortable and learn how to live comfortably in prison.
When you lose the fear, that's what keeps 90% of the people out of prison, is fear.
Well, for me, that's a double-edged sword.
Okay.
Because I've been home 5 years and I don't talk to my family whatsoever. Whatsoever, because my family, they left me, and now of course they want to, everybody wants to know me, they wants to do that, but I sat in a cage alone all that time. Nobody sent me packages. I was a first termer with no criminal history.
And one of the
So
things that you
to
said,
not have none of that,
Yeah.
I had to build up. I have no feelings out here today. People can come in my life today and walk out tomorrow. I wouldn't care less, because I've cut all that off, because nobody knows how hard it is to sit in a cell with someone